Hi, my name is Philip Lowe. I'm a director within Davy Private Client. And on behalf of Davy and indeed my colleagues, I'm delighted to welcome you to tune in to our latest Investment Insight Series broadcast. Today, we're focusing on our thematic calls with a specific focus on our AI and robotics recommendation that's been in our satellite accounts since June 2018. Now, I'm shortly going to pass you over to my colleague, Aidan Donnelly. Aidan is our host today, and he's going to be interviewing our guest, who is the co-founder and CEO of Robotify, Adam Dalton. Before I do that, I would like to do two things, however. Firstly, I'd like to thank Adam very much for his time and for being with us today. Adam has a fantastic story to tell, and from it I think you'll get a real sense of the opportunity and the potential within his space and within that sector. Secondly, I'd also like to thank you for tuning in, and also to all of our clients for your continued business. It is very much appreciated and valued. For our part, it's a privilege to continue to work with you and for you in terms of your financial planning and your investment requirements. Our commitment to you remains steadfast to invest in the areas of our business that have continually demonstrated to have high value and high impact for you, your family, and your business. To that end, we'll continue to invest on our investment process, and we'll continue to broaden and widen our investment platform. Speaking of our investment process, by now you should all be well familiar with the Davy investment philosophy, our centralized investment function, the core and satellite approach that we adopt, and as well as the rationale of having a comprehensive financial plan, and then having various portfolios and strategies aligned to that plan. That continues to be our commitment to you, and it is one that we think will continue to have high value and high impact for you. So with that, I'd like to thank you once again for tuning in today. I do hope you enjoy the presentation that's to follow. If you do have any queries or questions following the presentation, please don't hesitate but to contact your Davy advisor. So until we see you again, from all the team at Davy, continued success.
Welcome. My name is Aidan Donnelly. I'm Head of Equities for Davy Private Clients. Joining me today is Adam Dalton, who, along with his partner Evan Darcy, founded Robotify in 2015 with €3,000 in savings while still at school. Robotify teaches students to code through the use of robots and simulation. From early on, they were advised to stay away from the hardware aspect of business, which was proving expensive to source. So instead of trying to sell €200 robots, Robotify built software to control the robots remotely. This subsequently became the model, and the lack of costly hardware has proven an attractive feature in subsequent commercial deals. Robotify was acquired by Imagine Learning some time ago, and this group has made many investments in educational technology, or EdTech. Joining Imagine Learning helped bring them closer to their goal of making programming more accessible to young people and young minds around the globe. The company also made headlines globally when it signed a deal with Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak's WozEd firm, a STEM curriculum provider. Outside of school-level education, the company also secured a contract with the European Space Agency to provide robotic simulations for business using real-time satellite imagery from their satellites. So welcome, Adam. Before we get started and into the media discussion, perhaps you could give us a bit of colour about Robotify and the journey so far, how it began and where we are now.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a great backstory there. I suppose it's been a long, it feels like a long 6 or 7 years. Grew up in North Dublin. I'm from Donamead, and my business partner Evan is from Swords, Concealy. And we went to school together in St. Paul's and in Raheny, and we actually, the way we met was sat next to each other in the first day of school in our science class, so at the age of 12 or 13. And I think we always got along well, and always kind of had similar interests and similar mindset. And at the age of 16, we decided to try and start a business. At the time, we didn't know necessarily exactly what that business was going to be in. And I had been learning how to code. There was a fantastic teacher in our school. I always remember a guy called Michael O'Neill, and he used to run these coding classes out of the goodness of his own heart for free every Thursday after school. And Mick basically taught us how to make websites, and there was only about 3 people that would show up in the whole school, but he'd still do it. And there I started kind of building websites and starting to get more and more into the power of being able to program. And I understood it. I really enjoyed it and loved it. But the numbers kind of said everything. There's a school of 600, 700 lads, and 3 or 4 people would show up. And year after that, say age 16, kind of spoke to Evan, look, wouldn't it be great to get more people involved in programming? And we put our heads together as to how to make it more interesting for kids, specifically say the first and second years in the school. And we tried a couple of things. We tried to do the websites, we tried colourful slides, we tried all of these other bits and bobs, but none of them actually worked. You were only getting your traditional, say your nerdy type, say someone like Evan or myself, and we wanted to get all kids into it. The ones that were into soccer or into football, into hurling, the arty kids, the musical kids, whatever that might be. And so Evan came up with the idea of, instead of having the output be on a screen and just be very abstract, that we have a physical output in the form of robots. That's when our journey began. So we pulled together as I think the €3,000 in savings is a bit rich. I don't even know. It was anywhere near that. It might be 300. It sounds okay. Yeah, exactly. But we went around each classroom. We're like, here's it's €20 deposit to take part in the course. And I remember thinking, so we took, so there was loads of interest, which was great. And because we brought in a demo model, and I'm sure the teachers loved us, but we brought in a demo model to the classroom, would turn it on, and this little robot car that would buzz around the room that we had built. And so then we went on Alibaba, when that was still a thing. We went and purchased loads of equipment with the deposits. And I always say, if those units didn't show up, week 1 we weren't doing robotics. So the most incredible thing though was when we did the teaching, and we taught students how to write code to move the robots. It was just like that. Like the feeling, I'll never forget the buzz in the room when you've got 30 lads there from Raheny and all the local areas around there that would have never thought about coding before, that just absolutely fell in love with it when they could
could see the output in terms of the robot moving.
It came to life for them, and in subsequent years we learned a huge amount about what engages students, what really captures that emotion. And it's always been central to us, which is we want to make coding fun, wonderful and accessible for all students,
rather than just numbers on a page.
Exactly, right. And by having something that's real, to see those results and connect that abstract concept to something like that is so important to that process. But over the years we learned equally that we can't look at the world through rose-tinted glasses, I suppose. And the reality of it is that educators, we're talking about expensive hardware in probably one of the most underfunded industries in the world. So you're talking about going into primary schools, going to secondary schools. Specifically, our focus is the States, because there's a much better infrastructure over there for doing these kind of topics in school. So you're looking at kindergarten through 12th grade market in the States. And the reality of it is these robots could cost $300, $400. Some of them cost $1,000. So if you think about that, there might be 400 students in an average school building. If you want to provide each student with a one-to-one level of access, like you're talking crazy money, and they don't have it. And then it's not just the money. Any parents will know, you buy your kid something and they love it for 5-10 minutes, and then it collects dust on a shelf, or there's maintenance. If you ever get that thing, you stand on a piece of Lego. Like it's just, it's that physical upkeep element, which is a very laborious thing when you've got teachers that already have to worry about, you've got 30 screaming kids in a classroom. It's, it's difficult enough. And then you've got the maintenance piece, the charging, the logistics, and then COVID has made, has just made kind of the whole thing clear, which is you've got thousands of dollars of educational robots for the schools that do invest, sitting in classrooms collecting dust. No way to do homework. You're not going to give students these expensive units to bring home. So we kind of realized, even though it's an amazing topic, it's really not being done scalably. And so our whole word was scale, scale, scale. And we kind of went down the rabbit hole and figured that there's a lot of hardware companies, and what they're trying to do is to make their tech cheaper. They're trying to make it more accessible and less laborious to work with. But it's actually the same problem. It's just, you can't, I suppose, just keep going around and around doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. The reality of it is that the unit economics just don't work for schools at scale. And so we went through loads of different iterations. We scaled the business. This stage we would have been going into DCU. I had decided I really like programming. I'm always going to know how to code, but I'm probably too extroverted to have a career in,
stuck behind a screen.
Head in the screen, and Evan then realized that actually really enjoyed the engineering side, really enjoyed the problem solving. So he actually ended up doing mechatronic engineering in DCU, and then I did business, and it was more of a strategic choice. The business degree, just knew I could get through it. Evan subsequently dropped out very proudly out of DCU to work full time at Robotify, and about 2 years into our journey, we kind of had got to the point whereby we were experimenting with how do we make it less expensive, how do we make it more accessible, how do we make it easier for educators. So I think you alluded to it in the intro. We had this kind of mad idea of a robot farm, where we'd rent time out on these robots that were housed in Dublin. So because we realized you don't need these robots 100% of the time. So we built a big booking system, an online platform. We had these cameras. You want to see it? It was mad. We were lucky enough to be cheeky enough to ask DCU for some free space, and they were really good about it. And they gave us this old Enterprise Ireland prefab, right? It was this brown, horrible, dingy looking kind of prefab, and it was. We used to call it the cabin in the woods. It was overgrown. It was, you want to see the thing. We went in, tore up the floors, built these 1 by 1 meter pods, probably the same size as the table there. And we had these cameras hoisted above. And our main thing was, could we recreate that same emotional feeling of moving the robot in person? And we tested it with about 1,000 people. They absolutely loved it. It was the same feeling because they could see instantaneously the feedback. But look, business model was absolutely beautiful on paper, but it wasn't really scalable full time, long term, because you've got still a lot of high overheads for investing in the infrastructure. And then the reality with our customers was 90% of the people wanted it at 10% of the time. So really, you're kind of just, you make the problem better, but it's not going to go away. And that's where we landed with the simulations. And we went really deep, and one day Evan came up with the idea of virtualizing the robot farm, creating a virtual world, and not telling the students. So we recreate the same experience, and they didn't notice. And then obviously we stopped lying to the kids, and we just went fully virtual. We've now built the world's best in-browser simulation engine, where we can simulate extremely deep and immersive 3D worlds with physical accuracy and to the highest degree possible in browser. We've got a multitude of different robots with multitude of different sensors that are all physically accurate and runs in a browser. I keep talking about browsers because they're ultimately very accessible. There's no software to install. You can access it on any device. In emerging markets, if you look at schools, huge investments into schools have gone into Chromebook devices, which are primarily browser-based operating systems. So we built this incredible engine, and we've paired it with an unbelievable learning management system with over 1,000 challenges that students can go in and teach and learn programming using a block-based programming language and Python, which is a leading language for AI and data analytics.
And it's fully scalable. That's
extremely scalable, and now, if you're a school that wants to invest in robotics, you can do so, but you can also afford to purchase a Robotify license for your entire building for the price of 3 or 4 robots. Yeah. And you're getting access to incredible amount of content, immersive 3D worlds, a large variety of robots, and a lot of fantastic features. And the whole thing came full circle from the age of 16, the age of 23 in November 2021, just gone. We were acquired by one of the US's largest education companies, Imagine Learning, previously Wild North. I think what's incredible about it is we're now fulfilling the vision that we had in that classroom in St. Paul's to try and make coding fun, wonderful and accessible for all kids through the use of robots, except there are no robots and it's all virtual.
It's incredible. So that's the kind of what of Robotify, but maybe we can talk about the why. And I was interested to see on the website you say that by 2034, 47% of all jobs will be automated and replaced by robots. What, in your opinion, are the main driving forces behind that change?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it really goes back to kind of some of the reasons why we started. Now, to be fair, and we had no idea that this was coming really when we started. We just wanted to do it because we wanted.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was great fun. It was a business opportunity, and it was something that we loved. But for me, that sounds like a very scary number, and it's kind of to imply that everyone's going to need to be an expert in the topic. The reality is, you won't need to be an expert in the topic. And you go back to the Industrial Revolution, and you look at. I always found that time period really interesting, which was, people were extremely afraid with all this automation in machinery and factories, and that there was going to be a huge amount of jobs lost. The reality is, it's actually led to a huge amount of jobs being created, and the same thing will happen here, and it's already happening. To be honest, we're living in the future. When we started it felt like a long way away. We're now 7 years into it, and we're starting to see it. To be honest, I think what's driving a lot of the change in how goods are being manufactured, that's been happening for years. I think where the big changes are coming is now in artificial intelligence and in the software solutions that are being developed and running on these pieces of kit. In the hardware space, you've got big industrial hardware companies developing incredibly precise robots. You look at KUKA, which is a large one out of I believe it's Germany. You've got ABB, you've got Kawasaki, you've got Mitsubishi. They've been building these robots since before I was around. But it's just the ability to perform complex functions and to trust that the computer can actually carry them out. Now using AI is really, I think, the biggest change that's driving a lot of this stuff being adopted. And I think the reality is, it actually makes the human more valuable, because robots, it takes
away the mundane task that the human had to do with higher value added,
and allows us to use the most powerful computer, which is our brain, to solve different problems. And one of the things that we do in Robotify is big into teaching problem solving, not specific language, but really concepts behind problem solving. And being able to know how to control these devices or control the software behind these devices will put you in a much better position to be relevant in a world that is full of these automations. And I think I'm an optimist insofar as I think, well, hopefully we're not a nuclear war by then, but that these devices and these programs can actually help our daily lives and actually free us up to create new industries, to create new roles, to create new purpose. I'm looking forward to seeing what that future entails.
Presumably this wave of change is going to impact all industries and business. It's not just about manufacturing, it's not just about technology. It's right across the whole spectrum.
Absolutely, and people think of robotics and robots as it's a very physical word. It's an extremely you see it in pop culture over the years, and it's less that. I think it's actually more the software. The software side, the AI side, that we're seeing huge changes happening. Things are becoming robotified, and more and more in your daily life, you're going to see, different functions be automated. Where you might think you're talking to a human, but it's actually a script that has ingested, hundreds and thousands of hours of information, and it's now able to solve your problems. You see it already. I don't know, like 10 years ago, if you wanted any kind of support at all, good example, an insurance company, you'd have to give someone a call, you'd be on the phone. It's incredible the amount of really good tech now that's been built that enables you as a customer to get past KYC, get past that security verification, and actually perform, operations through talking to a chatbot. It's unbelievable the rate of progress. And even traditional industries, like you're talking.
I always laugh when I look at people and you think about things like McDonald's and Burger King, where you no longer go up and place your order with somebody behind the counter. You just go in and you plug it in.
And look how like even if you look at that process, look how efficient it is now. And there's you still got your humans doing like the important bits and bobs, but it's so efficient, the amount of throughput that they have through their takeaway business. And I think what for me, like it's not even just industries that you think are traditionally, say, blue collar, where there's a lot of heavy lifting involved. It's a huge amount of white collar automation coming. Like even with the legal profession, there's a huge amount of AI going on there. And then I'm personally extremely interested in the future that the blockchain technology has in the financial industry and kind of automating digital transactions. So I think you're going to find more and more in the coming years of just little things in your life that ultimately will make your life better. And if you understand why, you don't have to understand how, but if you understand why, I think it will lead to,
But that's an interesting point, because like when you think about that future world, right, I assume one of the main impediments is the level and the depth of knowledge today in how to control robots and how to code and how to, we can all think about it and go, yeah, that's a great result, but how do I get there?
See, I think the thing about it is, and it actually frustrates me, as someone who's very proud to be Irish, and obviously I've done a lot of things in the US and globally. We have users in over 100 different countries. There's not enough being done here and elsewhere at a government level to really get these skills in at a very young age. It's almost a kind of sure, it'll be grand attitude, especially here. And it starts really with the teachers. Like the people that are educating our kids, they currently are only in a very small capacity since very recently being taught about what coding is. And it's only now we're starting to see some of the shifts, but it's not quick enough. You're talking about introducing these programming concepts on the curriculum, and it's taken 4 or 5 years to do a pilot, and then it's taken 5 or 6. It's too late. We need to start now and start getting kids interested in these topics at a very young age. And with that said as well, I think there's a huge amount that can be done in terms of industry and workforce redevelopment by bringing these companies in, companies like ABB, companies like KUKA, companies like Kawasaki and Mitsubishi, bringing them into a room and getting their robots virtualized, because it's very difficult to scale their robots. You're talking robots worth millions of dollars. But even doing virtualized training programs, that needs to be government backed and government funded, because otherwise, who else is going to
fund it? Yeah.
So, and I think realistically, we need to think about this infrastructurally from the very ground up, and that's where we started. Long term, I don't know what I'll end up doing, and Imagine Learning are focused on kids' education. But I certainly believe there's a place for this kind of level of education from cradle to grave.
And again, I suppose the key thing here is, because of the way Robotify does it, you're lowered the cost. The cost is not the impediment here. That you could, all you need is a browser and a license, and it's almost like, it sounds a bit blasé, but it is almost as simple as that.
It is, and it's extremely visual, and again, it's something that we've tailored for kids at the moment. But for me, and some of our work with the European Space Agency, we've done a little bit of stuff with NASA. They sponsored a couple of bits and bobs for us, and like for me, it's just so obvious, and it's not I'm certainly not someone. I don't believe that every job is going to be in computer science or robotics. I'm absolutely against that idea, and I think that.
But that's not to say every job won't be using robotics or AI or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a very exciting future. I think we all need to kind of step up our game, and actually I say we all do. It's actually probably more up to the policymakers, the global governments, to really start thinking about how is this going to impact our future, and why are we still teaching students about all these other topics, when actually computer science is probably more important to learn than a foreign language. And I'm not bashing that, of course.
It's not one or the other, but you need to have an equal amount of emphasis on each.
It needs to be in there. And even for employers, one of the things that I think of as an employer, we always, our staff all when they join the company, they do courses on Robotify. They learn about all this stuff, because you have to remember, like I swear we've seen children run rings around their parents trying to do the same stuff on Robotify. So it might be built for children, but I know myself now, even some of the lessons that the guys in the team are pumping out, I wouldn't have a clue how to do it. I have to think about it. So I think it's something that employers as well should definitely look into, which is doing these kind of fun, visually engaging, impactful mini courses, and who knows what kind of an idea that might spark.
So I suppose the big question, we have a lot of clients who will be watching this and they have children. What would you tell parents of children out there in terms of getting involved in coding and robotics, not just as a career, but as an interest as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think start them young, and try and not daunt. Some you'll know if your child has just a propensity towards the idea and the topic, but really to encourage at a very young age just problem solving, building, being creative. And I think that's what it's all about. I mean, we use software and we use robotics and we use all these things ultimately because we want to build, we want to get better, we want to improve our lives. And I think just kind of encouraging that problem solving, that building kind of mentality. When I was younger, I used to play so much Lego, and I would build these fantasy stories. And I think just creativity, problem solving, and building at a very core level. And there's loads of amazing tools out there like Lego, like Robotify. There's lots of fantastic games that you can play on iPads that will, enhance, people's creativity and problem solving. So I wouldn't say it's something to panic about, but it's something to introduce to
and
encourage in a way that is really soft, is really light touch, and is about having fun. And I think you'll see in the coming years more and more tools like Robotify that really care about the fun element, and that's at the core of what we do. So I think just making these things fun for kids, and it's the underlying stuff like critical thinking, problem solving, computational thinking, all of that stuff. And you can do that stuff with puzzles, or at a very early age with just different problems that you can solve. So I would say just focus on those underlying bits and pieces, and then and hopefully by the time they get to the age of 13, when Evan and myself started, there'll be a computer science subject under the leaving.
A final question for you before we sign off. What does the future hold for Robotify?
Well, our mission now is to try and get every student in America using the platform, and I think it's with the reach that Imagine Learning already have, we're already on an extremely exciting journey to get there. The goalposts have shifted, the timelines have shifted. We're now working with an incredible organization that are extremely passionate about the problem they're trying to solve, which is to ignite student learning outcomes through fun and wonderful content. And now, as Imagine Learning's only coding provider, we've got an amazing opportunity to go and have great success and scale the business unit with the help of their existing wonderful sales team, their success team, their support team, all the team in the background that are building lessons, building content. The beautiful thing is we're doing it here from this fantastic city in Dublin, and they're making an investment here and continuing to scale up the team and invest in the core team that have ultimately made this possible. So I think you'll see millions of students in the coming years use Robotify, and I have a kind of a very close to my heart, I would hope, a good chunk of them are in Ireland, but that's only time will tell. But yeah, no, I'm very excited. We're looking at a huge amount of students and ultimately a huge amount of impact, and hopefully thousands and thousands of young minds changed about what their future might entail.
With that, I'd like to thank Adam for joining me today. I found it very, very helpful and useful and very insightful. I hope you did as well. As I said, I'm Aidan Donnelly, Head of Equities at Davy Private Clients. If you found this interesting and would like to discuss more of it, please do get in contact with your advisor and they will be able to point you in the right direction.